Hello and a very warm welcome to our session on SDG reporting today. My name is Michael Winter. I'm Managing Director of Stakeholder Reporting. Stakeholder Reporting is a specialized sustainability and reporting agency with almost now 20 years of experience. And we do have a very good cooperation with the colleagues in Vienna with nexxar. We have also some common customer, and we have the common goal to elevate and leverage digital sustainability reporting onto a new level. We aim to increase its meaningfulness as well as its communicative value.
Hello, also from my side. My name is Jozwik. I'm working at Stakeholder Reporting in corporate, in digital reportings, sustainability reporting, strategy and communication products, and very happy to be here today and to talk to you a little bit about the SDGs and the prospects that are there in regards to SDG impact reporting.
Thanks, Mark. Hello from my side as well. My name is Toni Spyra and I'm a project manager here at nexxar, responsible for the Merck Corporate Responsibility Report. And the Merck report is also one of our cooperative projects which nexxar and Stakeholder Reporting are partners in.
So this session is intended to provide you a short introduction and impulses when it comes to reporting on sustainability in a world and a business context that is increasingly digital and complex. Now we will start with a short introduction regarding the evolution of sustainability reporting throughout the last years. We will address, of course, the SDGs in detail, and we will present you SDG feature, a tool we have developed together, nexxar and Stakeholder Reporting, during the last months. And finally, of course, we give you some outlook and we have an open discussion about our impulse.
And quick organizational information from my side. There's going to be a Q&A session after our presentation. And if anyone has a specific question, feel free to post them in the chat. You are welcome to do so also when we are presenting, and maybe some of the questions will already be clarified in our presentation. If not, we will gladly answer all of them at the end. And for all further questions, there will be also an additional recap and learning session today, right after our presentation.
Thank you, Toni. So let's start to our presentation. Over the time, sustainability reporting has undergone a big transformation from incident-based commenting under the idea of accountability regarding environmental issues to a thorough and comprehensive analysis and reflection of the business model, strategy and sustainability issues along its value creation, all flanked by agreements, legislation and frameworks that have shaped global business activity. The major trend we see is the transition from the mere accountability to so-called impact-driven reporting. Now, what does this mean? Basically, reporting is transparency. Companies reporting disclosure data, such as CO2 emissions, to comply with reporting standards. But as the world is rapidly changing and also the role of business is, there is a shift in reporting. It's not enough anymore to merely disclose information. Business need to contextualize their data and make it visible how they contribute to society as a goal and social goals in general. This reflects the overall expectation of their stakeholders. With the launch of the Millennium Development Goals and afterwards the Sustainable Development Goals, the so-called SDGs, countries and decision makers have formulated a common direction the world should head to from a sustainability point of view. It has been defined what goals are to reach in order to enable a sustainable society on our planet. And this is where the old reporting practice reached their limit. Sustainability reporting need to address current global stakeholder questions and embed corporate sustainability efforts into the social context with regard to social needs and desires and also visions. So the SDGs are the new reporting framework. Well, not totally, but of course they will have a strong impact on sustainability reporting during the next years. Now, if you take a closer look at the SDGs, you realize that behind the icons there are sometimes pretty vague and sometimes pretty concrete requirements. And more importantly, you realize that it takes a great effort to address all SDGs altogether, because there are certain conflicts between the goals. Economic growth, if not socially and environmentally friendly, can negatively impact climate protection efforts or reinforce existing inequalities. It's going to be pretty difficult to really achieve all or many SDGs at the same time, and maybe in general it's not possible for one organization or company to address all SDGs. So yet stakeholder expectations and global trends make it necessary for business to take on the SDGs in their strategies, sustainability efforts, and reporting. So what role do they play for sustainability reporting? What can business do? How shall they address the SDGs as a company? The SDG intensifies the need for an impact-driven sustainability reporting. What does it mean concrete? It means embedding your business performance in sustainability topics into the social context, even into a vision like the SDGs, providing your audience with a contextualization, qualitative and quantitative data for this, because the business world and the world outside are not coexisting, but one and the same. And that is why it is crucial to elaborate how you and your business are contributing to overcoming pressing sustainability issues. In other words, setting out which role your business purpose takes for our world now and in future. Now we know the what, but what about the how? Here, online sustainability reporting comes into play because of various reasons. Online reporting allows a more future-oriented, stakeholder-driven outlook, functionally and visually, thanks to target group-specific presentations of contents, making it easy to speak to different audiences simultaneously. It engages users to interact with contents and people, and provides a layered information architecture. Those are just some of the benefits. The keywords are interaction, access, and personalization. That's why online sustainability reporting is brown for report impact and in impact reporting. Now, Mark, you take a deeper look at how to address the SDGs. This is correct.
Yes, this is correct. Thank you again for your thoughts, Michael. So as Michael already said, I will now take a deeper look at how to address the SDGs, because as you might know, the SDGs are not self-explanatory. They need further interpretation. And this is why it's good that there is already some existing tools and guidance documents that you can use in order to get on with the SDGs. So as you can see here, this is just an excerpt. Of course, there's many more, but we have taken those as an example. For example, on the left-hand side, you can see the GRI and UN Global Compact documents that really help you prioritize and select the right SDGs for the business context. And even one step further, you can see the SDG industry matrix, also by UN Global Compact and KPMG, that really even tells you or helps you with selecting the SDGs that are most relevant to your specific sector or industry. The Bertelsmann Stiftung has issued the SDG Index and has also issued some SDG dashboards that actually, in its very basic meaning, is a tracking tool that helps you to see how far have we as nations and have the several countries that are getting on with the SDGs, what is the progress there, how far have they come when it comes to reaching the SDG requirements. And last but not least, and this is maybe one of the most important tools because it's also relatively new, but not less important because it's a tool that helps you getting on with the interconnections and interlinkages of the SDGs between themselves. Because you might know and might already have realized that the SDGs are not separate pillars that exist for themselves, but the SDGs are a net of targets and indicators and goals that really work together and have certain interdependencies between each other. So the blueprint for business leadership on the SDGs SDGs, also issued by the UN Global Compact, is a first start to approach those interlinkages and tries to point out some of the positive and negative interconnections that might exist when it comes to the SDGs. So what we have done at this point is to go through all of those examples, and we have gone through the methodology of the tools, and we have derived, yeah, let's say common sweet spots, or even I would call them maybe action areas, development areas, principles maybe even, where we think businesses should focus on and think about and have them in mind when addressing the SDGs properly. And you can see them here on the slide. The first one that we have seen, we have realized is very important, is that when you depict your responsibility and the causal chains that are underlying and the relationship between goals and your business efforts, it is important that you do that in a balanced and differentiated way. So it's not enough just to focus on the positive contributions. You also have to think about and communicate, disclose any negative contributions and negative impacts you might have. And this is, yeah, especially important in order to prevent greenwashing, or in this case, the SDG or rainbow washing. Second, and for this, it's also very important that you have a clear prioritization when it comes to the SDGs, because yeah, nobody expects from you as a business to address all of the SDGs, and actually this would be hardly credible if your business model would address and have an influence on all of the SDGs equally. So it is important that you prioritize and select those SDGs which have the most connection to your business model and vice versa. However, and this brings me to the third point, is you should not be too restrictive or maybe go too fast when it comes to the SDGs, because when you look at goal level, so for example, clean and affordable energy, SDG 7, this sounds pretty straightforward, but if you go down into the targets and the indicators, there might be further information hidden. So it might be that you, when you have a too restrictive prioritization, that you omit different and very important interdependencies on linkages to other SDGs. And yeah, for example, if you implement a positive contribution, for example, that is hidden there is, for example, if you implement an equal payment policy, which would work to achieve the goal SDG 8, so decent work and economic growth, but at the same time it would help maybe to reach SDG goal 5, so reduce inequality, gender inequality, and also maybe SDG 10, reduce inequalities between countries. However, on the other hand, for example, if you take SDG 3, thinking about the times that we're currently living in, the pandemic, there is a lot of efforts going on in order to increase hygiene and sanitation standards. So this is, of course, a good thing in order to reach SDG 3, well-being and good health. However, on the other hand, this might have a negative impact on reaching circularity and climate protection efforts goals. So this would be SDG 12 and 13. So you already see that you have to be aware of those linkages, especially when thinking about measures to implement, because in the long run, this will help you and allow for a more holistic and also in the long term, more sustainable SDG approach. Fourth point seems pretty straightforward, but also has a lot of implication for your business actions that you take for the SDGs, because the SDGs have different significances and different importances when it depending on where you are located. So from community to continent to countries, there is different, or the importance varies. And imagine you're an international company, which of course some of you are, and you're operative in various markets, you serve them. And in one market, for example, country A, in order to, for example, let's take the example of SDG 7 again, in order to have clean and affordable energy, in order to contribute to this goal, to reaching this goal as a company, in country A, it might be enough just to switch providers, because there's already a quite comprehensive infrastructure for sustainable energy providers, and there might even be already some competition between those, so you can even go for a better price there. In a second country, country B, it might be that there is no sustainable energy provider yet. There is no infrastructure for that. So in order to reach the goal of clean and affordable energy, you might have to invest way more time and way more resources in order to reach that. For example, teaming up with other companies or speaking to local authorities in order to push those movements. So this is why it's important to have in mind the aspect of regionality, because this can impact the way you have to address the specific SDG. And last but not least, it's about really exploiting the SDGs communicative potential. A lot of companies already do that because the SDGs have a very strong confident CI, but you can really use them in order to maybe attract further stakeholder groups, and also to make use of their visuality, and also their kind of simple visual appealing effect. So there is those 5 development or action areas are already partly being addressed by some companies, and I would like to show you some good examples. First of all, we have German textile company Vaude, which actually has found a very pragmatic and easy way to get on with the SDGs. Think about the Vaude's responsibility and breaking it down to their context. So they have asked themselves, just in a nutshell, 3 different questions. First of all, they have asked themselves on a global level, what is the problem, what is the goal, which in this case would be, of course, the SDG. Then they have gone one step further to see, okay, what does this now mean, this global goal? What does this mean to the local context? So again, regionality. And in the last step, they have asked themselves, how does this global goal, which has a local relevance, how does this now translate into a business to do for us when we think about our value creation? So they have found a good way to get on with the SDGs, break them down to the business context, and also think about their responsibility in a positive and negative way, for sure. However, what they maybe could improve on, or they have not incorporated so far, is the visual effect of the SDGs, and maybe also addressing a little bit better the interdependencies between the SDGs. The second good example is ABB, which is the Swedish Swiss energy and automation company, which is a very good practice of how you can work with the SDGs in a visual way, and also use graphics in order to convey your messages. So normally you might know that the SDG graphics are very complex, they're very big, they entail lots of information. And thanks to a actually very easy trick, ABB has here introduced different information layers. So you don't get all of the information at once, but rather you can choose as a user which of the SDGs is of interest for you. And then you can click on this SDG and the wheel kind of spins in the original format, and then you get, as you can see on the slide, some case studies and some further information on how ABB is addressing the SDG in this specific case. And they have, apart from that, also incorporated the idea of contribution and enablement. So this is another different layer of information that they have introduced. Visually very appealing, of course, when you think about the development areas. However, they might also think a little bit more about the positive and negative aspects of the SDG, so also addressing those a little bit, and maybe think about the interdependencies, and maybe further go into detail when it comes to regionality. But after overall, of course, a good example. And you might know that, of course, those 5 development areas we have derived from our analysis, but there is, of course, a bigger SDG discussion going on. We have to say that, of course. And one of those streams that are currently out there is, of course, also not only getting on with the SDGs, communicating them, but if you go one step further to how can we now, when we know the impact, how can we quantify it? So how can we maybe use figures in order to express our positive and negative impacts? In this case, I would like to share for you as a general impulse, a little bit separate to this presentation, Lanxess, which is a German specialty chemicals company that has tried to kind of take the idea of a net positive approach. So seeing what is negative there, what is positive there, and then adding themselves up to see what is the sum. Is it a positive or a negative sum, or maybe even neutral? So they have taken their economic, socioeconomic, social and environmental impacts, have tried to monetize them, and then they have calculated the so-called gross value added after impact. So and there have formulated the ambition that they want to still increase the gross value added after impact even further. So yeah, this just as a general impulse on what is going on out there, where the SDG discussion go. So I've shown you some of the good examples. However, we haven't seen so far one of them that incorporates all of the action areas. So we have asked ourselves, what could digital SDG impact reporting look like? And
so, Mark, how do you think digital SDG impact report could better display?
Yeah, this is a good question. So, because this was actually the question that we were asking ourselves. So, we think that it would be a great benefit if you could maybe merge all those relevant information, of course, based now on our 5 development areas, into one place, so that you have a kind of SDG bundle, SDG information bundle, where you as a user can access all of the information in one point. I think that would be a benefit.
Ah, all right. So you mean how we did that together in our new SDG tool for Merck, right?
We are thinking the same way. Yes, yeah, I'm thinking about that.
All right. So after this crazy fate to the topic of our SDG tool, I guess everybody is curious to see our SDG features. So we now switch our desktops. All right. So let me show you our newly developed features so everyone can get an overview. So maybe a few words in front. So this tool is still being finalized, but I will show you already today what it's capable of so far. So the feature was developed to map SDGs generally and the impact of the report particularly. And in our case, we have implemented Merck content thanks to the kind permission of the Merck group. So to the hard facts. Here you can see an overview of all SDGs. And it's important to mention that only SDGs relevant to the company are activated. And those who are not, like SDG 1 and 2, are faded out. So another advantage is, of course, that you can implement the feature on any page you want, main page, SDG page, sustainability page, you name it. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm sorry for that my video is gone, but there seems to be a lot of traffic for this webinar, so I had to find to have a good connection. Yeah, so that you can still hear me. I turned the video off. Sorry for that, but
no problem.
Yeah, maybe Toni, if you could click on the SDG and go a little bit further into detail.
All right. Good, you brought it up. This is just the surface of the tool, so we will go into detail with SDG 3. And to represent the whole SDG universe in an adequate and state-of-the-art manner, we developed 3 main areas. So this is the target, impact distribution, and impact flow. And of course, let's start from the beginning. So the first step is target and impact. And there are most relevant targets, which are visualized and mapped with important business information and Merck material topic, the representative business fields where the targets are most relevant, and of course the company goals that fits into the SDG ambition. And of course, it's also possible to add further columns and categories, for example, whether the impacts are positive or negative, and the company goals that fit into the SDG. All of the targets are clickable. So if you click here on the cross or at the plus, you get more information. And of course, relevant information appears. On the right-hand side, you see a highlight box where KPI, highlight projects or further likes are located. And those serve as bridges to access further sustainability content on the corporate website or on the sustainability report. So the next 2 sessions or areas, impact areas, deals with distribution and impact flow. So Mark, what is the content idea behind that?
Yeah, happy to explain. So when you look at the second tab, the impact distribution, this is when you think about our action areas. This would be the place where you address the point of regionality. So you as a user can see which target in Merck's business operations has relevance in which countries, and you can here now explore the interactive map. You've got the continent tags and have a little information on that. And maybe also it would be possible to think about to go even one step further and maybe to map out some specific projects even here. So this is the idea of the impact distribution tab. And maybe Toni, if you can go one tab further to the impact flow, because this is, as Toni mentioned, we're still in the finalization process, but this would actually be the place where we foresee to get on with the interconnectedness and the interlinkages of the SDGs. So here, as we hear in SDG 3, we would maybe think about setting out the most reliable interconnections, for example, to 3 or 4 SDGs, and describing what the interconnection is, and also use this as a further linkage to the other SDGs, so that there is no dead end to the user when you are in the tool. But also you could maybe provide some further links here in order to map out or maybe to link to further sustainability contents on the website, on corporate contents, or even the sustainability report. So this is what we would envisage here for the impact flow area. This looks pretty cool, right?
Right, exactly, very cool. So now that the audience also has seen the feature, we are happy to get your feedback in a comment section in the chat. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, and yeah, I've switched again to the presentation. So this was a quick run through sustainability reporting and how to address them, and also how it could look like. So this is what I would like to give you a short summary of what we have just heard so far. So what should be your takeaways? First of all, when it comes to reporting purposes, use online sustainability reporting when you want to address diverse audiences, if you want to provide clear information with a reduced complexity, and you want to allow for personalization and customization, then online sustainability reporting is the tool to take for. When it comes to communicating along the SDGs, we have made clear that the SDGs are very strong, confident in their CI, and they also have enough leeway in interpretation or leave interpretation for you as a business to use them in a standalone communication for sustainability contents. If you decide to do that, it of course should be a credible and modern communication, which is why you should provide a clear prioritization. You should think about how to get on with the interlinkages, and whenever you can, feed your contents with qualitative and especially quantitative data. Having in mind the action areas that we have defined, we have created the SDG feature, which we believe can be a new information access and user touch point for your existing, but also for new stakeholders. And it might also be a pre-step to get on with online reporting in general, if you're not reporting at the moment. And what our vision would maybe be, so this is also titled here and named as an outlook, is that we together, with businesses and with the knowledge that we have accumulated so far, take on the challenge of taking the SDGs and incorporate them into reporting holistically, and create maybe out of this feature in the near future a so-called SDG dashboard that allows for establishing a comprehensive and holistic SDG communication. So this is the moment when we come to the questions.
All right, sorry everybody. Also the old muting button. Let's have a look at the chart, at the chat, to see if there are some questions, and I already see a few. So let's start maybe with the latest one. How do you normally prioritize the SDGs?
Yes, so maybe I can answer this as a sustainability consultant. Now there are different ways. In general, if you do sustainability reporting, you have a materiality process in the beginning, And normally we as a consultant, we integrate the prioritization of SDGs in this materiality process. So there are different methods to do this. Some of the methods are very expensive because they require a lot of data. Other can be maybe cheaper by having qualitative interviews with stakeholders. So there are different possibilities to prioritize this, and this depends on the requests of the company.
All right, thanks, Michael. The next one is from Sina. In what relation do you see the SDGs with the reporting standards like GRI or DNK for Germany? Is it an either or would you recommend to orientate on one of the standards at the same time using the SDGs?
Yes, maybe Mark and we can answer this together from different perspectives. I think in the beginning, I tried to say that there is a direction of more impact-driven reporting. And this is where I see the SDGs and not GRI or DNK. So right now, many of our customers, they do all three. They do all three all three standards. My feeling is that SDGs is getting more important, and GRI and Deutsche Nachhaltigkeitskodex are maybe not so popular more in the long run, because they do not give the possibility of embed a vision of having a future-orientated progress from the company. So yeah.
Maybe if I can just add a little bit as well. Thank you, Michael. I totally agree. Apart from, maybe we have to also differentiate between there's legislative things that you have to comply with, and the SDGs are not the framework in order to comply with, for example, the Directive on Non-Financial Reporting. So you still need to have more formal reporting where you disclose the relative non-financial data. However, we think that the SDGs can be a very good addition in order to embed the sustainability information into the bigger picture, let's say.
All right, thanks, Mark. Next one, anonymous. How modular is the tool? It seems like companies have very different strategies regards to how they report the SDGs. Maybe I get this question. So in terms of design, strategy is always a subject on its own. So of course, everybody or every company have their own strategy, and it always depends on the volume, on the implementation, on the requests, on the content. But we are still developing the tool, and we are very flexible. What the modularity of the tool depends on. So I think we can fit average strategy, but of course you're welcome to connect to nexxar or stakeholder reporting, so we can have a closer look at your strategy and your case, and therefore make a more precise answer. All right, next one is from Magda. Thank you for inspiration. Do you think it's very important to describe each support SDG on the company's website, or is it enough to shortly name it and go straight to the company's actions? I ask from the perspective of clear content and scarce space, especially on mobile devices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe you try it again together, Mark. Now, to be very honest, there is, of course, in the stakeholder discussion, especially in Germany, there is a discussion about rainbow washing, which means that maybe companies, they like to communicate SDGs, but they do not like to go in detail about really the impact they have on a good side or on a bad side. So our strategy would be to go into detail as much as possible. Of course, this is not possible maybe on the first run, and you have to develop an analysis of SDGs throughout the years. But in generally, I think the more information you can give regarding SDGs, as better it is in the respect of the reputation to your stakeholders.
And maybe just as to add a little bit, we sometimes also have to think about that we are in a kind of, let's say, in the SDG bubble. We all know about the SDGs. We know what they mean, what they entail, what the positive and the negative advantages, disadvantages are, but maybe there might be users out there who are not totally familiar with the SDGs, so they might not be able to totally be able to connect what SDG 7.1 means. So I think there you still need to provide some point of information where users can access the general SDG information, and then on the basis of that, really having internalized what does the SDG require, then go to next step to see what the business actors are that pay onto the very SDG requirements. I think this is important. And maybe second thing, there was a very interesting session on mobile reporting today on the DRC. So I think this is also maybe some of the action areas where we could maybe focus in the future on, whilst elaborating the tool, how to translate this on the moment desktop-oriented online feature onto mobile devices. So little hint to you, Toni.
All right. So thanks for the answer. Next one is from Karin. Would you recommend companies to always report on the negative SDG impact as well?
Yes. To be very honest, I just said the stakeholders, they like companies to talk about SDGs, but they expect also to talk about the negative aspect. And if you do it in a good way, you can show that maybe the positive aspects are better and more increasing than the negative aspects.
All right, thanks. Another one from Magda. From your experience, are companies able to really report net impact between SDGs, or is it enough to indicate on interdependencies? For instance, financial health protection generates waste, hygienic products, but difficult to access the exact harm for environment.
Now, this is a very good question. It's a question in general about how the reporting will develop throughout the next years. Now, I just know really a few companies in Germany who really have such good SDG analysis that they can do a net positive approach. So I think by introducing this feature, we would like to stimulate at least that there will be the interdependencies between the SDGs presented to the stakeholders. So I would be happy if many companies would do at least the interdependencies. Of course, finally, it would be good to have a net positive approach. But this is really something for the future, I believe.
Maybe to add to that, I totally agree, Michael. I think this can also be the topic of interlinkages, interdependencies can be a really conversation opener, maybe in the first place internally, to make sustainability teams come together and to talk about and maybe also evaluate the measures you have taken so far. If you might have forgotten something. So I think in the first step, it might be enough to describe those interdependencies, and then we would see how reporting develops. Maybe take the further step than that Michael just indicated.
All right. Next question from Rose. That looks very sophisticated and a lot of work to populate. Who is the principal audience you are targeting with this tool?
Mm-hmm. I think it's the same audience than we have in sustainability reporting in general, which means it's quite heterogeneous. As you know, sustainability reporting is for NGOs, for analysts, for potential employees. So it's a heterogeneous stakeholder group which reads and looks at stakeholder reports, and this is also the same with the SDG feature.
All right, next question. Very nice feature. However, I see this on a corporate website, sustainability report. For an annual report, an integrated report, I think it's too much information. Keeping materiality in mind, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. It is now. It would be an additional feature. The idea about the feature is to bring sustainability reporting also to a new level. So maybe there's a possibility to integrate this feature in the future also in sustainability reports. And so it would be then just 2 reports, the annual report and the sustainability report, including the SDG feature. But I think for right now, it's a good idea to bring this kind of reporting in the arena, to discuss this and have some pioneer companies to do this. I think it will be a help for sustainability reporting.
All right, so 3 questions left. Next one is, thanks for sharing. I like the tool idea. How long does it need to collect the data needed for the tool?
Now, in general, when we think about sustainability reporting in general, we have in 6 to 8 months cycles of developing this report by having 2 months of research. And this kind of 2 months, I would also guess, would be needed for this SDG feature.
All right, so I have an add-on question. So how much work is involved in collecting the data which is needed for the SDG tool?
To be honest, it really depends how detailed and deep you do it. Now, when we do it with clients we already know, I think it's an effort maybe of 20, 30 working days at company side, at consultant side. But of course, if it's a new client and you have to do new research process, develop new research process, this can be, of course, more effort to get all the information together.
All right, and the last one, very interesting question, is from Maike. How large is the share of companies who report on the negative impact on the SDGs related to the ones only reporting on the positive ones? Do you see a growing trend towards reporting negative impacts, or rather not?
Yes. Yes, I think that companies in general who are going to use SDG as a framework, they realize that if they really want to get credibility, they also have to focus on the negative impacts. And of course, this is not all of the companies they are doing it. And of course, especially communication departments are hesitating about doing this. But my feeling is that those companies who want to be pioneer companies in sustainability reporting, they do it. And although they will be followed by many others, I think, in the future.
All right, so thanks everybody. I think that's it with the questions. And if there are questions left, there will be a recap and learning session to clarify all your questions right after our talk here. And I think that's also all from our side. Many thanks to Michael and Mark from Stakeholder Reporting, and of course, thanks to the many listeners and viewers today. I hope you were able to take some inspirational input from our session. So take care and check out our following recap and learning session. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.